Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Vibin It. We are super excited to have you here today with us. We have a very special guest for you. As always, we like to bring you really cool people with very helpful perspectives that will help you to elevate your life, change your life, make things even better. We are all about living your most high vibe life. So today we have Mr. Bob Doyle here with us, and you may recognize him from The Secret, which Lindsay and I are big fans of. The Secret, we think it's a great intro to the law of attraction. We know that some law of attraction teachers think they're too cool for that movie, but I think it was great. The book and the movie really opened people's eyes to their power, I think. So that's really cool. And nowadays, Bob is teaching people how to rewire their brains, which we will get into on today's episode. And he's also a teacher of creative self expression. So, Bob, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks, Kelsey. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Good to
Can you
talk to you.
tell?
I'm excited.
Sorry, Linz. Didn't mean to
No,
interrupt
good.
you.
Do you want to jump into origin stories as we always do?
Lindsay likes to ask the question, so I'll let you go.
I'm the origin story girl. So how did you get started with this? What is your story? Where do you come from, and how did you get kind of familiar with neuroplasticity and rewiring the brain? What was that
Yeah.
like?
Well, that's more recent, but 20
Okay.
years of teaching law of attraction. So that's probably the origin story starts there. Obviously, is how did I even get into a conversation around helping people transform? Because it was definitely not a career goal of mine or anything like that. I was training my whole life to be a broadcaster. I was just going to get on the radio. I was going to do voiceover. I was just going to be a goofball. That's what I knew that from a very early age. My dad was in broadcasting, and I just wanted to follow in his footsteps. So I did that for a while, but I wanted to do more creatively. You were talking about creative self-expression, and that's really what that really drives me. And if I'm not, and I really believe this is true for most people, if they're not fully expressing what's in them to express, they feel dead inside. And that's how I was feeling. And so it really was a journey of trying to find a career where I could, express myself creatively. And I also had sort of learned that I wasn't a great employee
Mm.
because of my sort of, I wanted to be creative in my way and do things my way and all of that. So I knew that probably being an entrepreneur was my future. But I tried a bunch of different things and nothing was really working, even though on paper I thought that they should. That's what kind of got me searching for more, metaphysical answers. Like nothing that was logical to me was, giving me answers as to why things weren't working. So I thought, well, maybe there's something sort of that I don't see that's going on here. And that's when I started learning about, more about meditation and visualization and this whole concept of creating our reality and the energetic nature of the universe. And there's a lot of detail in the story where I had my ahas, but for now, we'll just say eventually I had them. I was kind of led to material that talked about the quantum physics aspect of this, and my brain needed some science around this. It just wasn't enough for me to, to just because it sounded good to just jump on board, and certainly not
Mhm.
be able to get results with it. So, but once I had my aha moments around the science of like our thoughts are powerful things, and was able to honestly look at what my belief systems were around money and success, then I was able to see why things were probably showing up the way they were. So again, to try to make a very long story short, I started implementing some of the basic law of attraction type of exercises that you hear about, like vision boards and things like that, my versions of those. And I started to see some results, and I got excited about sharing what I was learning. And I created the very first sort of law of attraction program that I created, which was called Wealth Beyond Reason. This was like, the year 2000 or 2002, sorry. So almost 20 years ago. And it was all based on as much science as I could. And I made a decision very early on, and this is kind of a part of my message, that instead of just being a facilitator of this information that other people had basically come up with, I wanted to be the one who could make a change, who could I wanted to be the expert that could help people facilitate this transformation. And so when I made that decision about who I was being in the world, instead of like one day I'll be like Dr. Joe Vitale or any of these others, it was like, this is who I am now. And that when I made that decision, now I know a little bit more about what happened biologically, but in that moment, I when I shifted who I was being, I started getting different results. I started getting all of these downloads, right? More insights on the law of attraction specifically. And so my program grew into this beast, which was later discovered by Rhonda Byrne. when she was putting together The Secret. So that's how she found me, and I got into that. So I was teaching the law of attraction for a few years before The Secret came along. But The Secret obviously blew my world wide open. I went from being this broadcaster guy who nobody knew who he was to, you know, now I'm in this movie with these people who have been in this industry for freaking decades. And I've been in it for
Mhm.
like 3. So there was a lot that went on there in terms of like sort of my identity and who am I in this? Because I was, in my mind, I'm still the goofball broadcaster, still am to this day. And now I'm trying to fit into this mold of Bob Doyle from The Secret, which was what everybody was calling me all of a sudden, you know?
Hey, Bob Doyle from The Secret.
Yes.
Like that's your full name now.
It literally was like that for a long, even with my friends. And I'm like, okay. So, but that's sort of a sidetrack. But there was some internal struggle because once again, while I was realizing success, financial and otherwise, I was not fully expressing who I was. I was trying to be
Mhm.
Bob Doyle from The Secret. So I had my own sort of, struggle there. Like, do I even want to do this anymore? And honestly, I tried to walk away from this conversation many times, but I just kept getting pulled back in. There was just something about this message that I just kept having to give it. And so when live streaming came along, this was now an outlet for the broadcaster in me to find a way to share this message and be myself and be creative and still be silly and all of that and find that balance. Took a while, but I feel like I've got that. Now, let me just get to the rewiring because that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
20 years of teaching this stuff. And what I'm realizing, and I'm sure you have seen it, is that people get so excited about The Secret and the law of attraction that that's what they fixate on is the
Mhm.
law of attraction. And they're going to master this law of attraction. They're going to figure it out. They're going to learn all the nuances. They take a million courses. They read all the books. And what I really woke up to a couple of years ago after being one of these people who was sure that if people just understood the law of attraction and that it was a thing, then they would have results because that's what did it for me. The writing is on the wall. People are way too obsessed about the law of attraction and figuring it out, and they're not focused on what's really important in their own personal transformation, which is who do I want to be? It's
Mhm.
Yeah.
different than who I'm being now because that's the person who's going to attract, if you will, the results. It's not this. I'm good. The problem is people are using the law of attraction, this thing that doesn't need to be used. They're trying to use the law of attraction to create external change. And that's not where change and transformation happens. It happens from the inside out.
Yeah.
And when I had my big ahas on that, and it all comes down to where is reality really created? Well, it's created differently for every single individual, and it happens in their brain, and it's based on the meaning they give the moment. And
Right.
what meaning they give is based on their wiring, how they've been programmed, etc., mostly unconsciously. So it comes down to if you want to change your reality and your experience of reality, you have to change who you are being
Mhm.
in the world so you can get different results, have a different experience, and that and truth, truthfully being somebody new involves a biological process of rewiring your brain from the wiring that it has had in default mode ever since you were, born or developed during the course of your, early life.
So this is where
Word.
I get excited because if you're a new listener, then you can learn this. But if you're not a new listener, then you know, and Bob, you may or may not know that I am a hypnotherapist and that's all I do is help people, usually with success and like what's blocking you from being that success that you want. So this is amazing and I love what you're saying. I want to really quick, if it's okay, touch just for a second on this whole identity. I don't want to call it an identity crisis, but an identity conflict that you may have had with the guy from The Secret and who you are at your core. Well, my question was, where did you find the rift between who you were wanting to be, who you are, the goofball, and the guy from The Secret? What was the difference there?
It was all made up in my own mind. Now, I did get some feedback from somebody once because I asked if I could play the ukulele on stage because this was something that I had just taken up at that time. And it was a big part of my breakthroughs in personal, self-expression. And they said something along the lines of, no, we don't want any of that. We just want the guru.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so it's like, all right. So somewhere in my mind, it was like, it's not okay to just be me. I have to be
Oh.
like Jack or Bob or any of those other people. Like that, it wasn't like weighing me down consciously, but it was affecting my behavior, who I was being on all of my videos and in my emails and in my marketing material and all of it. So
Mhm.
I really felt a drift away, certainly from the passion for what I was doing, because I wasn't doing it anymore. Bob Doyle from The Secret was doing it.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that because when I was training and learning, they're very specific about like be the professional, wear the name tag, don't bring yourself into the room, make there be like an invisible wall between you and the client. It's all about the client, which I love.
Mm.
However, I know that clients can tell. They can feel that when they feel like they're not getting the full package, the full picture of who you are.
Yeah,
And so it can cause a little bit of a disconnect. When
yeah.
I was like, "You know what? I'm just going to be the goofball. I'm just going to be myself." Oh my gosh, did it change everything. And I'm sure it did for you as well.
Absolutely, but mostly the joy of doing it, because
Totally.
I was going to not do it anymore, and I don't
Yeah.
just focus on just voiceover or whatever.
Mhm.
But because I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it this way, because there's this whole thing for an entrepreneur or a solopreneur about finding your tribe and all of that stuff. You probably know this. You want to be as authentically you as you possibly can, so that you will attract the people that you love working with, who really know, like,
Totally.
and trust the real you, because otherwise you are in this state of maintaining this false persona, which, like you say, people feel, they know. And I've never liked the distancing that happens in this whole personal development
Mhm.
industry, about there's the people in the audience, and then there's the one on the stage who supposedly has it all together and knows all this stuff and is better somehow. And you get people in this mentality of always being the student, which is fine, I get it, but there's an energy around. I mean, like, I'm a student of life, of course, always, but to put yourself below, like, I'm not as smart as, or I don't have it together, or I don't,
Yeah.
as that person. And a lot of times the people in the industry cultivate that. They want that, right? They want you to feel like you need them, and I've never liked that.
Yeah, it feels a little icky.
It's not empowering at all, and it's not at
Right.
all about my message, which is just be your freaking self, and you will find the audience who loves you, the people who just want to be around you, who are attracted to you, who support you and lift you up. But a lot of people are not surrounded by those people in their life right now, and so that makes this whole process of transformation even harder, because they don't
Mhm.
have the support system to support a new way of being. Because as soon as they start to do it, which we'll talk about later if we talk about the transformation personality types, they that stops them from
Yep.
rewiring.
I was going to say, this is a really important conversation because
Yep.
Lindsay and I are all about next level manifestation, meaning like living your life intentionally, right? Call it the law of attraction, call it manifesting, whatever. We're women of purpose and we've found it empowering to live on purpose. And so we like to help other people do the same. It's good to make that, just call it out, that so many people in the beginning, we get so excited about manifestation and the law of attraction that we forget what actually causes the transformation. And that's why I
Yes.
think it's helpful to think of the law of attraction as the law of mirroring, and think of yourself as, like the smaller version of your life, right? So whatever is happening outside, this is like my perspective of how it all comes together in my mind. Whatever is happening in your circumstances is to some degree a reflection of what's going on internally for you. Whether you like something, whether you see harmony, whether you see disharmony, whether you don't like something or don't agree with something, that's your invitation from your life and or the universe to look inside, make a change, and then get feedback via your reality. Not to say that everything is your fault or because of you. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on at play, but in a basic general level, like, the law of attraction is actually meant to be like a feedback tool. Like, your life is
Yeah.
showing you where you are, where you want to go, what you want to be. And so to make that choice is where you get to be empowered, and then you're going to come up along resistance, and then you get to work through that, and then you get to decide again. And it's the whole process of personal transformation that really makes you a badass creator, someone who
Right.
can really express themselves.
And let me give some perspective, because what you
Yeah.
talked about there, that process of transformation, is the same exact process that we all use for everything that we learn, especially the non-negotiable things. Like when we learned to walk, we made a lot of mistakes. We fell down a bunch of times, possibly hundreds. We didn't sit there and say the universe doesn't want it for us. And we didn't sit there and go, oh my God, we're so stupid. How do we just kept going, until we did it, because we took the feedback and said, okay, well, I'll make this adjustment, I'll make this adjustment. Same thing with learning to read or write or cook or do anything. If it's non-negotiable and we need to learn it and we don't have that wiring in our head yet, there's going to be discomfort. There's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be this feedback that we call mistakes. But in some situations, we don't have any problem. Just keep going because it's non-negotiable. But when it comes to personal transformation, well, if it doesn't happen in 14 to 30 to 90 days
Yeah.
or whatever, then obviously the universe doesn't want it for me, or this isn't going to work for me. If this is just how, and you move on. That's not how it works. That's not how anything else works. But when
Yeah.
it comes to our transformation, that's how we do it. And that, to some degree, I blame the industry because we've packaged it up.
Yeah.
Here's the program, take the program and you'll be there. Well, we don't know that. There's no way to know how long an individual is going to take to
Right.
permanently change their neural pathways. That's going to take some time and consistency. Hopefully your program will get them there, but they must do it consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it's such a good thing that we don't learn to walk as adults. Half the
right.
population would be like, not doing it. Sorry.
Would
I'm
have
over it.
we'd have
When
no technology or modern advancements if
oh
everybody
goodness.
approached, if they approached
Yeah.
technology like they approach personal transformation, because they say, oh, well, this is free. I mean, the iPhone is impossible. And yet here it is.
Right.
But us writing our book or starting our business, or that's not impossible at all. It just takes some behavioral changes, things that we're not doing now that we need to do in order to get
Mhm.
those results. So my work is about helping people identify, okay, well, who is that person that you need to be? And what are the behavioral changes that need to take place? And then giving the support system to do that, because it's not going to
Yep.
be a walk in the park, because we're going
Right.
up against years of wiring.
Now, how many times this happens in my practice a lot when a client and I don't know if I should warn them. I don't, but I might, is that when your atmosphere changes, your aura, your persona, who you are, when that starts to transform, you are hyper aware of the things that don't work, right? You become like this, your antennas kind of go out and you're like, okay, that's not serving me. And that is part of the change is you're very hyper aware of what hasn't been working for you for a really long time. And that could be a job, that could be a relationship, that could be where you're living or a living situation. And it doesn't always happen, but it's not an uncommon thing that does come up. How often does that happen for you?
Well, I mean, I think it always happens. I
It's
mean, if
always
you're,
happened,
yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah. I mean,
Just in life.
if you're going to grow, you're going to reach those points.
It's true.
And
Mhm.
it's just normal. And the whole idea is to embrace it and to
Yep.
celebrate it. I mean, instead of letting discomfort and all these other feelings and noticing all those things, that's the very first step. If you work with me, the first superpower you're going to get is that
Mhm.
awareness, that observation of, oh, this isn't working. This is autopilot behavior that I'm doing that gets me a result that I don't want. Why am I doing that? I don't know. Maybe you figure it out. Maybe you don't. You don't have to spend tons of time going, why am I like this? Just
Right.
notice that you are, and notice how you'd rather be, and start freaking rehearsing it. We've got this brain, which is totally programmable, as evidenced by the fact that we have been programmed.
Mhm.
And we're capable of learning new things. So all we have to do is just start giving it new
Mhm.
information, and we get to imagine it on our own without, it doesn't cost us any money. We get to imagine it with full emotion and get the feeling that we're really there. This is the unique gift that we have as human beings, and it's because we're freaking meant to do it.
Yeah,
That
and it's freaking fun.
Yeah,
It's so much fun to
it should
visualize your
be.
ideal outcome.
Yes,
And your mind is already a goal machine. Like you're already achieving goals every single day. You are 100% successful at being exactly who you are right now. Like
right.
imagine what you could do if you were more like Kelsey said on purpose with it.
Yeah.
So
It, it
cool.
it's for that, but even thinking that big
Yeah.
is a challenge for people
Yeah.
because it seems unattainable, but they also have to realize that's normal. Like that's okay. It's totally okay that you don't know what to do, you don't know who to be, and that it feels uncomfortable. Of course it does. Of course it does. Your whole life you've been wired as this is the truth. Now we're challenging that. And
Mhm.
so, of course, all kinds of stuff is going to come up, and you just get to take the journey and ride the ride. It's all about how you frame the process of transformation. You can get excited about it and be curious about it and go, wow, that's interesting behavior that I've done my entire life for no good reason, right? or you do what a lot of people do and they beat themselves up or they quit when it gets hard because if you don't have the support system in place, a community, some coaching, whatever, some tools to deal with the high emotion, your old wiring will win.
Yeah.
That's and again, that's not because you're broken, it's because you're a human and your wiring is your wiring. It's your reality. And if you don't have somebody to help you check yourself and reframe, if you don't have a process, a tool, some sort of a system, because right now you're being consistent, but it's all on autopilot. You're sending yourself the same messages over and over and over again subconsciously with zero effort. What we want to do is replace those messages with better ones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have to start by doing it consciously because we don't want to live on autopilot anymore. We don't want to just say yes to all the information that comes our way like we did when we were ages 0 to 7. We want to be discerning and go, does that serve me? If I take on that belief system, can I get where I want to go? No, well then screw that one.
Being selective and picky. And I like what you've mentioned once or twice about the meanings that we assign to things, because this is so important. This comes up a lot with the client work that I do. Like, there are so many detrimental meanings and disempowering meanings that we assign to situations or circumstances or bad things that happen to us. And we make it mean something bad about our life, something bad about our future, something bad about ourselves. That's the worst one. And it's like, if you didn't have to make it mean that, then you open up this whole world of possibilities, newness,
Mhm.
change, transformation. And I think it's just so empowering to realize, oh, I assigned that meaning to that
Yes.
thing. I assigned that meaning to this not working out. I made it mean that I can't do it, but that's not actually what it means.
But you
It
learn to
means,
make that.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you were
exactly.
given, you were doing the best you could running unconsciously. I mean, most of us are, we think we're conscious, we think we're making conscious decisions, but we're actually we're making those decisions based on wiring that was done completely unconsciously.
Yeah.
And
Outdated
from a,
software.
outdated software or just completely inaccurate from the very beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but if you can just wake up and go and realize, oh my God, so I can choose, I can make it whatever. It's ready to write whatever. It's ready for whatever. But you have to be consistent. And the only way you'll be consistent is if you make it non-negotiable, which means your vision has to be super inspiring to you. It cannot be some half-assed thing, and it can't be just because it seems better or because everybody else wants it, or none of that. It has to be like call to you at your soul. And again,
Mhm.
you may not know what that is at first, but we just, we have processes for hacking away at that. But so much of it is giving up old stories
Yeah.
because
And
they,
go ahead.
well, because as I'm sure you know, as a hypnotist, these stories, they are their truth and they're part
Yeah.
of their identity. And so if they don't have something to replace those stories with, a better story, then there's this scariness about letting go of their old story. If I don't have that, then who am I?
Well, and then after that, like the biggest thing that I wish I knew, like in the beginning when I'm looking for like soul purpose and what am I supposed to be doing? 100% I feel like I'm in it. But if I decided one day that I didn't want to do it anymore, like you get to change your mind and
Right.
evolve it and transform it, make it different, make it completely something else. You get to do that too. Like you don't have to have the exact right answer forever for the rest of your life.
It's so true. And that's a big part of what I mean, because people spend sometimes their whole lives searching for their purpose when they could have just decided what it was.
Yep.
Yeah. You get to choose it.
And tomorrow you could be something different. And the next day. And now, of course, if you change who you're being every day and you don't give the world a chance to catch up, then you probably won't see any long-term results of that either.
You're
Because
right. Maybe not
there's a
every day.
there's a ripple effect that happens as you change who you're being. And you're going to see it in people and how life is just showing up. I mean, that's where the law of attraction, again, you don't need to give any thought to the law of attraction. It's just going to happen automatically. Just like if you drop a glass, it's going to fall to the ground. You don't have to know how gravity works or figure it out or have put the glass dropping on a vision
Which
board.
nobody really does, by the way. Nobody knows how gravity works.
Right.
That's
Well,
like one of the biggest mysteries.
And
and even the law of attraction or any of this, it just is like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We
Doesn't
weren't born
matter.
needing to know this. We were not born needing to know how it all worked. We just need to know that it works, that our brain
Yep.
is ready to be programmed for us to experience the extraordinary life that is in us to live. And it's unique to us. And we have those passions for a reason.
Yes, I love it. So let's dive into the rewiring. So far we've outlined some helpful things. One, curiosity. I find this super helpful. Like, get curious about yourself. We don't have to make you the bad guy for having done it quote unquote wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. You're doing the best you can. Two, becoming aware. Let's talk about, like, let's realize some stories. Let's realize some patterns. Let's become aware of how we are now so we can work from reality and change from there. Where else do people start when they want to rewire their brain?
Well, that knowing their starting point is a key thing. That's why I put people through this transformation personality type quiz, and it's free. It's 60 seconds long. Anybody listening to this could take it while we're talking and learn their transformation personality type. Now, let me just be really clear that I put this quiz together. It's not like the disc or anything like that. It is strictly based. I made up all the types, right, based on my experience with people for these 20 years, and it's strictly in the context of personal transformation. So you take this quiz and you learn about your type. And these types, while there's nothing bad about them at all, sometimes they have traits that cause a person to basically rationalize stopping
Mhm.
their progress. So
Mm,
it doesn't always happen. Just because you're one of these types doesn't mean you always sabotage. But if you're having trouble, this is a place to look. And so understanding your starting point is great because then that's helps you get into awareness because now you can observe. You have some time once you learn your type. We show you ways to observe how does this show up in your everyday life? And then that gives you ideas of scenarios to run that are different. Otherwise, you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know about your autopilot wiring, if you can't see it somehow, it just feels like the truth.
Yep.
So knowing where you're starting is an essential first step to even decide where you want to go instead.
Where do
okay,
they
so
find
I'm
the
gonna put
quiz?
the link in the show notes so people can click it. But if you can say it real quick.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll say it. It's tptquiz.com for transformation
So
personality
easy.
type. I know, nice and short.
tptquiz.com. I love
Yeah.
it.
And so you're basically going to show up as one of four types. And we can just briefly touch on what they are. And even if they haven't gotten a chance to take the quiz yet, you'll probably hear yourself in one of these or more. And you're going to be a combination probably of a couple of them, but one will most likely be predominant. And a lot of it has touched on much of what we've already talked about. We've talked about traits of some of these. So the seeker, for example, is the number one type that we get. And it's probably because these are people who are in the personal development conversation, have been for a while. They are very interested in improving themselves, so interested in fact that they try every seminar, every program, read every book, watch every movie, and start a lot of things, but maybe not quite complete them all. Maybe they complete the program, but do they stay with the principles enough for the rewiring to take place in their head? Because again, it doesn't matter what vehicle you use, whether it's this program or this book or just knowing about something like the law of attraction, the transformation happens as a result of rewiring, which requires consistency. So the seeker needs to choose something and stick with it until they are rewired. And they can still enjoy the fact that there's so much information out there, but you get inundated and it just gets confusing because now your wiring is chaotic. The neural pathways or the neurotransmitters that you're producing, they don't have time to land and create these really strong neural pathways, if you see what I'm saying. So that's the first one. I don't know
Cool.
if you guys want to say anything about these
Sounds
just
like my dad. My dad is like all about learning, 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 learning. And he's so busy learning sometimes that he forgets the implementation aspect of it. I'm like,
Mhm.
Dad, if you just do any one of these million things that you learned, because you literally like basically know everything from all these seminars, all these books, everything, and you would just stick with it, you'd be so successful. But I
Yeah,
think people just
Yeah.
get addicted to the learning and the excitement of the learning sometimes. And
that's
that's where
true.
people can get a little stuck.
Sometimes it goes a little deeper that people are actually scared of who they could become. They
Moving
don't finish
forward.
one thing
Right.
they don't have to complete, but they're
Right.
working on it. See? And so that's not always something that's going on consciously, but it can be running subconsciously. It's like the
Yeah, I
fear of
don't think that's me. That's not me yet. I haven't hit mine yet. Let's keep going.
Okay, so the next one is that we talked about too, the people pleaser, which is pretty self-evident. They are the ones who stop their transformation, no matter how inspired they are, because mom gave us this look, or the
Mm,
neighbor said, "No, you'll never." Whatever it is, some external message from a person has them doubt, second guess, or otherwise stop or put a governor on themselves or sabotage themselves, just so those people will be more comfortable or to get away from the discomfort they feel when those people express their opinion. Now, obviously, that's devastating to all concerned, because this idea that you're going to keep them comfortable, nobody's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
If they were comfortable, they wouldn't be telling you what you can't do with your life. And obviously you're not going to be comfortable because you just gave up on your dream. The whole reason you're here, you basically have sacrificed your life. Otherwise you'll stay alive, you'll have an existence, but that thing that's in you to do, that passion, that experience that you want to have, and it's going to feel amazing when you do, you just gave up on it because you don't want them to be mad.
Yeah.
So it's the people pleaser. The best thing they can do is obviously go for it and succeed, because at least then they have the opportunity to inspire some of these other people into action. Will they necessarily? Who knows? They're on their path. They've got
Not their job.
right. And
It's just a bonus.
And once you do that, you will attract that other group of people that we talked about, the ones who support you, the one who are totally in alignment. They're high vibing like you, and you're not having to put up with all that crap and all the energy, and it's going to be just a much better existence.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
have
people.
I have a tip for the people pleasers out there too, because a lot of times we'll explore this in work with some of my clients, and I'll ask them like, okay, well, why would it be bad? Like if your mom disapproved, or, and then it comes down to like, well, then she won't love me. And then if she doesn't love me, then I don't have connection. So usually it's like a fear of a loss of connection, which is our number one need in life. So if you can resource yourself with other types of connection from more supportive people, more beneficial people,
Yeah.
from yourself, I'm not saying everyone has to do it all by themselves. I hate when teachers say that. But if you can resource yourself with more connection, you'll be less afraid to lose connection. And even if you temporarily lose connection with the wrong people or unsupportive people, is that a bad thing? Like
Right.
it's something to explore. So
Right.
obviously, I have compassion for people when they're scared of losing connection, but have compassion for yourself if that's you, and then resource yourself with more connection. And I think you'll have more confidence to go for the thing that might threaten connection, because I have connection. Hey there. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but if you want to listen to the whole thing, we're going to invite you over to our podcast. Either search for High Vibin It on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, or even better, if you want to watch the extended video version of this episode that's even longer than the actual podcast itself, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe. Lindsay, tell them what's awesome about the Patreon.
Patreon is where we have all of our extended episodes. As Kelsey said, we have it on video, so you can actually see the things that we're talking about. Sometimes we have visual aids, and it's nice to know what we're talking about. We also have hangouts that we do sometimes that are exclusive to Patreon people. And you can get started with all of this and bonus content and everything that we have only for the Patreon people for as little as $3. I think it's $3.33 a month. And that's it. And you guys can get all the benefits and all access to everything that we put in there. Really cool.
It's really cool, really fun, super easy to join. And you guys don't even have to do that to finish this episode. If you're like, screw it, I don't want to pay any money, I just want to hear the rest of this episode, go to our podcast, High Vibin' It, search for it wherever you listen. It's totally free. Either way, enjoy the rest of the show wherever you choose to enjoy it. And we will see you guys next week, because we do a new one every week. Adios.
Bye.